It's 1845 in America. You're standing on free soil for the first time in your life. You're 18 years old. You just handed over every single coin you spent years secretly saving, $1,800, just to buy your own body back from a man who had no right to own it in the first place. You're free. Legally, actually. Officially free. You could walk away right now, build a life, start over, never look back, and for 1 second, just one, you think about doing exactly that. Then you look across the river, back at Kentucky, back at the darkness you just escaped, and something in your gut twists into a knot so tight it's basically permanent, because you know exactly what's happening over there right now. You know because you lived it, and you pick up an oar, you get in a boat, and you go back. Not once, not twice, 900 times. So let's back up. Because to understand why you're voluntarily rowing into one of the most dangerous places in America, we need to talk about where you came from. And it is not a fun story. Fair warning. You're born in 1827 in Norfolk, Virginia. Your mom is enslaved. Your father is a white man who will never, not once, acknowledge you exist. So right out of the gate, life has already made some choices for you that you did not consent to. You're 8 years old when you get sold for the first time. 8. Not to someone nearby, not somewhere your mom can visit. You get walked. Actually walked on foot. From Virginia to Alabama. That's roughly 700 miles. In chains. You're 8. You don't fully understand what's happening, only that your mother's face is getting further away, and there's nothing either of you can do about it. Alabama is where things get slightly less terrible, but only slightly. Your new enslaver hires you out to work at an iron foundry. And here's the thing. You're actually good at it. Like, weirdly, naturally gifted at working iron. You learn fast. You get stronger. And slowly, over years, you figure out something important. You have a skill that people will pay for. Real money. And if your enslaver is getting paid for your labor, maybe you can negotiate a cut. Now, this is not normal. This is not something enslaved people just casually did. But you are not a casual person. You are, as will become very clear, someone who looks at an impossible situation and immediately starts calculating angles. So you negotiate. Somehow, you work out an arrangement where you keep a tiny portion of what you earn. And then you do something even more impressive. You save it, every coin, for years. While being legally owned by another person, you are secretly building a fund to buy yourself back. By 1845, you've saved $1,800, which in today's money is somewhere around $70,000. Let that sit for a second. You saved $70,000 while being legally enslaved. You then walked up to the man who owned you and essentially said, "I'd like to purchase myself, please." And he said yes. And just like that. Or actually, just like years of grinding and saving and calculated patience, you are free. You move to Ripley, Ohio. Ripley sits on the north bank of the Ohio River. And across that river, close enough to see on a clear day, is Kentucky. A slave state. The border between slavery and freedom is, at its narrowest points, not even a quarter mile of water. You can literally see the other side. You can hear it on quiet nights. And this is where most people would set up a nice life and call it a day. You earned it. You paid for your freedom with your own money. Nobody would blame you for staying on your side of the river. But here's your problem. You know exactly what's happening over there. You know what the mornings feel like. You know what it sounds like when an overseer's boots hit the dirt outside the quarters before dawn. You know the specific kind of tired that lives in your bones when you work from dark to dark and still have nothing. You know it because you lived it. And that knowledge, that bone-deep, first-hand, irreversible knowledge, it doesn't let you rest. So you meet a man named John Rankin, Presbyterian minister, lives on a hill above Ripley, keeps a lantern in his upper window visible from the Kentucky shore. A beacon for anyone brave enough to cross. Rankin is one of the most wanted men in the South. There's a $2,500 bounty on his head. He's been running the Underground Railroad out of his house for years. You two shake hands. And just like that, you're in the business of freedom. Your job as a conductor on the Underground Railroad is not glamorous. There are no parades, no announcements. No one is allowed to know your name. What there is, the Ohio River at night. a rowboat, a pistol tucked into your coat because you were absolutely not playing around, and a rotating cast of terrified strangers who are trusting you with their lives. Here's how a typical crossing goes. You get word through a chain of whispered messages so secret that most people only know their one piece of it. That a family on the Kentucky side wants to cross. You wait for a moonless night. You row across in total silence, find them, lead them back to the river, get them in the boat, row back, hand them off to the next station, go home. Try to sleep. Wake up. Do it again. Except it's never quite that simple. Because the people hunting runaways, slave catchers, they know about the crossing points. They know about Ripley. They know about conductors. There's a bounty on you specifically. Your face is on wanted posters. At least 3 different versions of your face, because whoever drew them clearly never actually saw you, which honestly works in your favor. You develop what could generously be called a very robust personal security system. You change your routes constantly. You vary your timing. You memorize every path, every shortcut, every hiding spot on both sides of the river so thoroughly that you can navigate in complete darkness, which you will eventually have to do in a blizzard, in the middle of winter. But we'll get there. One night. And this is the story that will make your descendants' jaws drop for generations. You get information that a family is already partially crossed. The parents made it, but their infant. The baby is still on the Kentucky side, with someone watching it, inside a plantation house. The other conductors look at each other. Nobody says anything. Because going into a plantation house, actually walking inside the enslaver's home, to retrieve a baby is not the assignment. That is a whole different level of insane. You look at them, pick up your coat, and go. You walk in, past the sleeping dog, who opens one eye, then closes it, apparently deciding you're not worth the effort. Past a hallway, past the enslaver's bedroom door, which has a light under it. You find the baby, you wrap it in your coat, and you walk back out. Past the hallway, past the bedroom, past the dog, who does not even bother opening the second eye this time. You make it to the river. You get in the boat. And somehow, you do not get caught. The blizzard night, winter, 1852. A family needs to cross, but conditions are brutal. 0 visibility, ice on the river. Any sane person would postpone. You don't postpone. You don't even hesitate. You've memorized the route so completely that you navigate through a full whiteout storm without a compass, without landmarks, without being able to see your own hands in front of your face. You get everyone across. You get home. You probably eat something, sleep for 4 hours, and do it again the next week. And that's the thing about what you're doing that history somehow glosses over. It's not just brave. It's repetitive. It's not one heroic night. It's 900 nights. It's 17 years of this. It's choosing fear, danger, and the very real possibility of being captured, returned to slavery, or killed. Not once, but 900 times. But here's what you were doing in the daylight hours, between crossings. Because you weren't just a conductor. You were also, quietly, becoming a businessman. You'd gotten your hands on some ironworking equipment, set up a small foundry operation in Ripley. You were good at it. You'd always been good at it. And now you were actually getting paid fair wages for the skill you developed in bondage. You're building a life, a real one, with money you control and a home you own and neighbors who know your name for the right reasons. You also, at some point, start inventing things. You patent a soil pulverizer, a tobacco screw press, things that improve farming, which is either deeply ironic or deeply perfect. Depending on how you look at it, the man who once worked someone else's land without payment is now inventing tools to make that land more productive, on his own terms. The Civil War changes everything. Suddenly, crossing the Ohio River isn't illegal espionage. It's the official position of the Union Army. The people you've been smuggling to freedom for 17 years are now legally free. The whole country catches up to what you'd been doing in the dark since 1845. And instead of a bounty on your head, now you've got neighbors who finally know your name and what you actually did, which is honestly a lot to process. After the war, you sit down with a journalist. You tell him everything. The crossings, the plantation house, the blizzard, the 900 nights on the river. He writes it all down, every detail. It is one of the most complete first-hand accounts of Underground Railroad operations ever recorded. It should be in every history classroom in America. And then the manuscript goes into a box at Duke University, where it sits, untouched, for 70 years. It was finally published in 1996, 151 years after you bought your freedom, 131 years after the war ended. The house you lived in Ripley, Ohio, the house you owned, that you paid for yourself, still stands today. There's a small National Historic Landmark sign in front of it. Most people drive past without reading it. You went from being owned to owning yourself. From buying your own body for $1,800 to buying your freedom in the most literal sense by building it, one crossing at a time, 900 times over 17 years. You didn't do it because someone asked you to. You didn't do it for recognition. You did it because you were the one person who actually knew what was on the other side of that river and could not pretend you didn't know. And history, in its infinite wisdom, put his memoir in a box for 7 decades. This was his missed chapter, and you almost never heard it.